All right, welcome into Sports Talk. Avery, we cannot let today go by without mentioning the Egg Bowl tomorrow.
Obviously.
So do you think this game is more about bragging rights or momentum heading into the offseason?
As of right now, I would say it's more about momentum heading into the offseason. I think it's been really interesting this week. You know, this is my first year covering sports in a professional setting, and I think going into this week, it's been really interesting to hear the amount of times that coaches and reporters have also talked about that this is bragging rights for the next 365 days, which is crazy to think about because, of course, everybody wants to beat their rival, but just hearing a team say that, you know, we've talked all football season long about going 1-0 every week, beating your next opponent, but hearing them actually say, you know, we've beat this team for the next 365 days, I think that says a lot. And so I don't want to say it's more about bragging rights because there is more on the line, I would say, for these two teams going into this game, you know, with Ole Miss potentially hosting a playoff game or Mississippi State making it to a bowl game and basically not ending their season. So I don't want to say it's more about bragging rights, but I do think that it's a very interesting and just for me, it's been kind of fun to hear these people talk more like, oh, you know, they get these bragging rights for 365 days, like something more like that. So I think it's both, but I wouldn't say one or the other is more.
Okay, and so Avery, you know, it's Thanksgiving.
Yep, gotta bring it in there.
So if Ole Miss and Mississippi State were characters at Thanksgiving dinner, who's the loud relative and who's the one quietly plotting a comeback?
Okay, so I think as of right now, where we are in college football, I think Ole Miss is obviously going to have to be the loud relative that's all in your face and asking you what you're doing and what's going on when you graduate and all the jazz. I think Mississippi State is probably the more, I don't know how a relative would have a comeback, but I would say the Mississippi State is more of that quiet, like more nonchalant, chill relative that's kind of probably sitting in the corner waiting for you to go talk to them, that kind of thing, whereas Ole Miss is very like, look at me, here's the spotlight, I'm the big relative. And so, you know, I could think that's kind of fun to talk about when it comes to just Thanksgiving in general and what these two teams look like just as fan bases and as personality-wise. You know, they kind of have definitely their own personalities.
Okay, and so is there a rivalry game anywhere in college football that you think rivals the Egg Bowl in terms of intensity?
So going into this, I would have said yes. I would have said the Iron Bowl. I think the Iron Bowl, I grew up knowing that the Iron Bowl was huge. You know, I also grew up going to Georgia Tech, which is just the Governor's Cup, and it really wasn't a big thing. My mom and I actually did some research this week because I didn't know where the Egg Bowl came from. And so if you don't know out there, the Egg Bowl coined its term from the trophy literally being a football and being a golden football, and somebody said it looked like an egg. So that's the only reason that, and both of these teams way back when, sometime in the 1900s, I'm not sure the actual year, but neither of these teams were going to make a bowl game, and so somebody said, we're going to make this game a bowl game, and there you go with the Egg Bowl. And so we did some research, we got our history done. Right now, I feel like everybody's attention is on the Egg Bowl, and I feel like that is because a lot of Lane Kiffin and how he has handled this, you know, the past few weeks in Ole Miss and how just they're having a record-breaking season. And so I feel like right now this is probably the biggest game that everybody's going to be looking at. But, you know, when you think about playoff contention and who's going where and what, this weekend's just great as far as rivalry sports go. And just in general, it's a great weekend to be a sports fan.
And before we get out of here, do you have a go-to memory of watching NFL football with family or friends during Thanksgiving?
Yes, so I definitely do. Going into Thanksgiving, we had a very traditional Thanksgiving, and all the men would sit in the barn, which was like, you know, down the dirt road, and all the men would sit in the barn, and they'd be eating their like roasted peanuts, and they'd have a beverage, and they'd be watching the Lions or the Cowboys. So every single year, that's what it was. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody from Carlo and I in Sports, and of course from Grace.
Happy Thanksgiving. We'll be right back.